go!
It is my profound honor to announce this year's James Beard Foundation Humanitarian of the Year Award.
Every year, the James Beard Awards shine a spotlight on the best chefs in America. But this year, California and Texas gave us two names you need to know. One's running a moody, high-end Taiwanese tasting menu out of downtown LA. The other's a former butcher who's turning a neighborhood spot in Texas into a full-blown flavor bomb with Wagyu-kimchi, tostadas, and a wide array of flavorful dishes. They are two chefs from two different cities and two completely different approaches to what it means to run a kitchen. Meet John Yao, Best Chef California, and Thomas Bille, Best Chef Texas.
The suspense. Thomas, Bille.
They just took home top honors at the 2025 James Beard Awards, which is often called the Oscars of food. And today, we're digging into how they got here, what makes their food unforgettable, and why the whole country's watching. Alright, so before we dive into the chefs, let's talk about why this award even matters. The James Beard Award are basically the highest honor a chef can get in the US, like the Oscars, but for restaurants. Every year, they highlight the best of the best across the country. It covers not only fancy fine dining spots, but also bakeries, barbecue joints, neighborhood bistros, and everything in between. The awards are chosen based on their creativity and impact, and most of all, their flavor. So, when a chef wins a James Beard Award, especially one representing an entire state like California or Texas,
big congrats to Thomas Bille on this win for Best Chef Texas. Things are heating up in the Lyric, but they're heating up also at Union Station. So you know what I did?
What'd you do?
it's a sign their food has left a lasting impression, not just for how it tasted, but for the way it made them feel. And in California this year, that honor went to someone who's been quietly redefining fine dining on his own terms. John Yao grew up in Walnut, out in the San Gabriel Valley, which is basically LA's unofficial capital of amazing Asian food. He was only a child in a Taiwanese-American family, and the kitchen was always the heart of the house. His mom could throw down, and just being around all that food made him fall in love with the flavors he grew up on. At the time, he had no idea those same flavors would one day land him a Michelin star and now a James Beard Award. In college, while everyone else was stressing over midterms, John was already testing recipes and selling homemade guapao and braised pork rice out of his family's kitchen. John was originally planning to take the LSAT after college, maybe become a lawyer. Yep, briefcase, courtroom, the whole deal. But somewhere along the way, that plan got swapped for a chef's coat and a whole lot of mise en place. He landed a spot at Alma in downtown LA, stayed for a few months, then moved to San Francisco to train under some serious culinary giants. Corey Lee at Bennu and Daniel Patterson at Koi. That stretch in the kitchen, it cracked his brain wide open to what food could really be. By 2016, he was back home in LA, opening the first version of his restaurant, Kato, in a tiny strip mall tucked between a nail salon and a sushi place. Real glamorous. It was a modest place with a short menu. His mom was helping out at the front. The kitchen was barely big enough to turn around in, but that didn't matter. The food wasn't fancy or over the top. It was simple, rooted in the kind of meals he grew up eating. Made with care, packed with real flavor. And that's exactly what made people stop and pay attention. In 2022, Kato got a serious glow-up. The restaurant relocated to Row DTLA, trading the strip mall for a sleek minimal space with soft lighting, open kitchens, and a full team to match John's evolving vision. The menu became a 12-course tasting experience, running $325 a head, and yeah, people happily paid for it. One of the most talked about dishes? A duck breast, aged and seared until it's just ridiculously tender, paired with fermented kumquat for that blast of richness and brightness that hits in slow, glorious waves. There's also his tiger salad, a crunchy, herb-packed, low-key, spicy masterpiece. And don't sleep on the soy-preserved scallop. Clean, quiet, then boom, flavor that keeps unfolding. That same year, John earned his first Michelin star and got dubbed one of the ones to watch in the world's 50 best rankings. But the real flex, his win at the 2025 James Beard Awards. When he stepped up to accept it, John said, "I'm super proud to represent LA and this community of chefs." Now, cut across the country, let's meet our best chef of Texas.
Bille was one of 5 finalists in the Texas category, up against Houston's own Emmanuel Chavez of Tetemo and chefs from Dallas, San Antonio, and Marfa.
Someone who's built something totally different, but just as impactful. Thomas Bille is the chef and co-owner of the Belly of the Beast, a restaurant tucked into Old Town Spring, just outside Houston. He runs it with his wife, Elizabeth, and together, they've transformed what started as a humble neighborhood spot into one of the most talked about kitchens in Texas.
My wife, left her industry. She was a national director for a nonprofit organization.
Thomas Bille grew up surrounded by good food. His dad, a professional chef. His mom, a home cook who could absolutely throw down. That early exposure gave him a foundation in the culinary arts, and eventually, he trained in some of LA's top kitchens before planting roots in Spring, Texas, where he finally brought his dream to life. Cue the timing. Belly of the Beast opened its doors in 2020. Yes, right before the pandemic hit. Brutal timing. But even with all the setbacks, they held strong. By 2023, they relaunched in a bigger space, giving Thomas the room to really define what his food could be. And here's the thing, Thomas Bille's cooking style, it refuses to be boxed in. It's a mashup of Tex-Mex, Mexican comfort food, global flavors, and zero interest in sticking to just one lane. Asian ingredients, Mexican street food, fine dining techniques, all colliding in the best way possible. One night, you might get Wagyu short rib with kimchi. The next, street corn agnolotti. Or tuna tostadas layered with crispy nori. It's not just fusion for the sake of being clever, it's what happens when you cook from both instinct and experience. Then boom, 2024, Belly of the Beast earns a Michelin Bib Gourmand. And at this year's James Beard Awards, Thomas Bille becomes the only chef from Houston to be recognized. That's a massive moment, not just for him, but for a city whose food scene often flies under the national radar. But for Thomas, it went deeper than just the spotlight. He talked openly about imposter syndrome, those quiet doubts, the wondering if anyone really understood what he was trying to do. Receiving this honor, it felt like validation, proof that his voice and his food belong on the map. What really sets Belly of the Beast apart? It isn't following any traditional playbook. There are no white tablecloth rituals, no precious plating or sculpted foam towers. Instead, every dish hits you with bold flavor and real heart. It feels handcrafted, memorable, expressive without being showy, and that's the magic. Houston's food scene has always been diverse, but what Thomas brings is raw, thoughtful, and unmistakably personal. He's proven that great food doesn't need polish, it just needs truth. Now, we've met both chefs. Let's break it down. What really sets them apart? John Yao is all about precision. At Kato, the food unfolds slowly, quietly. One course builds on the next like chapters in a story. Nothing is loud, nothing is forced, and yet the entire experience feels deliberate. You're not there to rush, you're there to listen. To flavors, to textures, to craft. Thomas Bille's food, whole different rhythm. His plate comes in swinging, bold, layered, alive. They don't follow a clean arc, they hit you in waves. Wagyu next to fermented vegetables, pasta stuffed with corn, and punches of acid or heat that make your palate sit up straight. And that looseness, it's intentional. His cooking isn't chaotic, it's lived in. You can feel the trial and error that shaped it. His dishes are designed to be eaten, remembered, and craved. And yeah, let's talk price point. Kato's 12-course tasting menu will run you $325 per person. It's an experience, a special occasion kind of night, hyper-focused, hyper-refined. At Belly of the Beast, you've got options, prefix or a la carte. Either way, you'll eat like royalty without the financial hangover. That accessibility, it matters. Then there's the root of their flavors. Yao draws his Taiwanese upbringing in the San Gabriel Valley, filtered through a fine dining SoCal lens. Bille pulls from his Mexican-American background, Texas barbecue culture, and a wide-open pantry of global ingredients, sometimes all on the same plate. Even their spaces reflect their style. Kato lives inside Row DTLA, a polished, minimalist space with intentional design and that soft glow that tells you this is fine dining. Every detail is dialed in, and the room lets the food take center stage. Belly of the Beast, total opposite vibe. Tucked into Old Town Spring, it feels warm, local, a little gritty in the best way. There's a beating heart in that room, and nothing about it feels staged. It's food, people, and passion, pure and simple. Here's the big takeaway. This year's James Beard Award winners weren't chosen because they were the trendiest names or had the most followers. They were chosen because they built something real, something that reflects who they are, where they're from, and what they believe food can be. That's the heart of these awards. It's not about checking a box. It's about recognizing vision, voice, and vulnerability wherever it shows up. That's why John Yao and Thomas Bille stand out, not because they followed the formula, but because they refuse to. So, whether you lean toward delicate tasting menus or flavor-packed plates that hit hard and fast, this year's winners delivered something unforgettable. If you're in LA, try to snag a seat at Kato. Prepare to be drawn into a world where every bite whispers. If you're near Houston, drop by Belly of the Beast. You'll walk away with more than just a good meal, you'll feel something. Now I want to hear from you. If you could eat one dish from either restaurant right now, what would it be? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if you love stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next bite.